Considering how popular the topic of immersion is when it comes to language learning, I'm kind of blown away at how little good advice there is out there. I mean, there's advice, but it's not very specific. And I mean, it just seems like wherever I go, whether I'm on Twitter or Twitch or Discord, wherever, it seems like there's no specific advice. And the worst thing is, you might be doing immersion, but you might not know that you're doing it wrong. And so that's crucial, because if you're doing it wrong, then the immersion isn't good anyway. I had some good advice from people when I was becoming fluent in Japanese. And now that I'm there, I'm here to give you advice. So hopefully this video will put you on the right direction in your language learning journey. Let's get started. Number 1, the most common thing that people are doing wrong is starting and stopping. Whether you're reading, whether you are watching an anime, a movie, whatever it is, I cannot tell you how wrong starting and stopping too much can hurt you and is the wrong way to do immersion. Now, it's okay to come up for a breath of air every once in a while. I mean, but you gotta stay submerged. That's what immersion is, right? You gotta stay submerged or your brain will never learn the new language. So all of this is caused by one underlying fact. You think in your head, you say, but I don't understand. But I don't understand what they're saying. Yeah, I know. That's the whole point of immersion. You don't understand. If you did understand, guess what? You'd be fluent. So it's illogical to think that, oh, I'm going to be watching content in another language and I should understand 100%. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you might not think exactly that, but that's what you end up doing when you're starting and stopping. You're saying, oop, I don't know that word. Got to write it down. Oop, I don't know that word. Got to write it down. Oop, oop. And in the end, guess what you're not doing? You're not immersing. You're just kind of like dipping your toe in, taking it out, dipping your toe in, taking it out. You're not fully immersing. And in order to get that immersion, I guess, content or feel, you need to stay immersed. Okay. So what's the big takeaway here? You shouldn't be understanding everything. Don't try to understand everything. This is not a good idea. If you try to understand everything, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. You're going to be disappointed. You're going to be like, wow, I still suck. Oh, I didn't know that word. I didn't know that kanji, whatever it is. And it's going to break you down and it's going to make you feel bad. Number 2, too many new words. I can't tell you how many people come into my Twitch and say, how do I learn more vocab? How do I learn more vocab? And guess what? That's the wrong question that you should be asking. Look, you can learn a bajillion words in a new language and not become any more fluent. It's the right words. You need to learn the right grammar or the right words. And that's what helps you become more fluent. So if you're going through a show or if you're going through a book and you're writing down almost every single word, that's a problem. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to find the important words, okay? Which words are important? There's 2 types of words that are important. Do you like what you're hearing in studying Japanese? It doesn't have to end with this video. I will be your personal guide on your Japanese journey. Email me for one-on-one lessons, my beginner Japanese course, or to have me diagnose your Japanese to figure out exactly what you need to improve. Thanks. There's 2 types of words that are important. Ones that they say multiple times. Let's just take an anime, for example. So let's say you're watching an anime and they say a word 1, 2, and then you're like, oh, 3 times, maybe 4. If it gets around, like they're like, wow, I have no idea at all what they are saying, but they keep saying this one word. Go ahead and look up that word, right? It's definitely going to help you understand the context of what's happening. But if they just say it once and you're like, oh, okay, I got to write it down. Look, that might not be an important word. The truly important words will pop up again. I promise. The second way, now this one's kind of ambiguous, is you think it's important. Okay, it's definitely a skill that takes some time to acquire. But when you think it's important, you go, man, maybe I can use that with the Japanese I do now. Or maybe I can use that in how I speak on this and that app or in my lessons. Okay? Those are the ones that you think might be important. Or you're like, oh, I can use this or I will use that in the future. Now, you got to set a limit for yourself. This is what I mean by too many vocab words. I usually personally to my students, I say, you got to set, if you're a beginner, maybe like 5 max. If you watch a 30-minute show or something like that, 5 new words. Even that's a lot. in my opinion, sometimes. So, if you're a beginner, maybe max of 5 words per 30 minutes. If you're intermediate, 3 to 5. If you're advanced, well, then you do need to be in this stage where you're just learning all of the little words that you haven't learned yet. So if you're already like pretty fluent, then yeah, that is what you should be doing. Number 3, this connects to 2. The subject content is irrelevant to your goal, or you don't have a goal. Why don't you have a goal? So if you're just learning new vocab, or you're studying content that doesn't really relate to a short-term goal or a mid-term goal or a long-term goal, that's the problem. You really need to be setting goals for yourself. Short-term goals, be like, oh, I want to learn 3 types of new sentences today, or I want to look for sentences that say don't in it, like 好きじゃないとか、食べないとか. Those are the kind of things. 4つ目, I cannot stress this one enough, and this is my number 1 rule for anyone I talk to when we talk about language learning. It must be fun. That's my number 1 rule. And I did, that's not mine. I took that from my Japanese language mentor, the guy that helped me get better at Japanese. And so I mean it. If one person to another, like a grandfather almost, right? One person to another, it must be fun. If you're watching the news and you're like, gosh, this is boring, well, then stop watching the news. Find something fun. There's so much content out there now. And you got to be careful because not all content is good. But I would find sometimes the best content is non-language learning content. Just whatever, like a TV show that has nothing to do with language learning, or an old Japanese guy who is drawing pictures and talking about it in Japanese. That's that channel. Number 5. Now, this is the hard one. This is the crushing truth, okay? And this is probably the one that I can give the least advice about. You haven't built your foundation yet. It's too early to immerse. And so you say, when then? When? There's so many languages out there. I can't really speak for the other ones, but for Japanese, I know. And that's why I specialize in Japanese. In general, I always say, learn in this order: VAN, van, verbs, adjectives, nouns. In my opinion, that's how the way that frequency works, at least in Japanese, but I'm pretty sure in other languages as well. You need verbs, you need to know how to conjugate them. Nouns, how to conjugate them. So it's like, not a lamp. There's a lamp right there, right? It's, I don't like cars or something like that, right? 車は好きじゃない。ランプじゃないよ. And so that's the hard truth. So if that applies to you, look, it's okay. But it just means you need to kind of think more like a textbook. You need to learn that basic foundation in order to immerse, or else immersion will just be impossible. But if you feel like, wow, I just didn't understand anything, like less than 5%, and you're just understanding like watashi, like I, oh, he said I. Look, it might be too soon. It might be too soon. So you want to be able to pick up multiple things so that if you can see the general structure of the language, so that it's like, oh, new word, new verb. And it's like, not swim. Oh, I didn't know swim. Okay. That seems important, or whatever. So that's my advice. I hope it came in handy, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this wasn't very helpful. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. If that's the way you feel, please post down in the comments. Or if you have immersion tools like apps or widgets or something, please post them down in the comments so that we can talk about them. I want to know more. I want to be able to help you guys more. So thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a nice day. Too many new words.